How's it going, my bearded brethren? This week, what my beard has taught me is that eating food can be a pain. I don't know if you guys have ever realized, but eating food or drinking liquids tends to get a little messy. One of the things I've noticed is that right here, my mustache, every single time I eat, like I swear, I feel like I'm gonna eat my mustache. It's not all of it, it's just the corners of my mouth, like right here. And I swear that one of these days I'm going to sit there and take a bite of a sub or something like that, and I'm going to end up coming back with like half of a mustache. And don't even get me started on drinking liquids, because like seriously, every time I drink like coffee, I mean, I'm a big fan of coffee. I like, you know, I like coffee probably more than most people. I've drinking coffee in like 17 different countries, and coffee has literally saved my life. And if you ever want me to regale the tale, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. Just hit me up offline. Either way. But with that said, drinking liquids is a pain as well. Every time I take a sip of coffee, it gets like right here, just right into my mustache, and then it drips down on the side of the cup as I'm drinking it. And of course, then it gets all over my hands, and you can imagine the wife at that point is just ecstatic about the mess that you're making as you touch everything in the house. Because then everything is coffee ridden. With that said, I mean, if that doesn't happen to you, either you ain't got one of these or you got some secret, and I would love to hear about it. So if that is the case, please share it with me. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is this thing called bed beard. It's kind of like bed head, but for your beard and whatnot. And I don't know about you, but I don't roll out of bed in the morning and this look nice and luxurious and all nicely shaped. Most of the time, like this part right here is shot over there, this part right here is like curled up like this, and it just looks like utter and complete garbage. Well, one of the tricks that I have learned is that you take a little bit of conditioner to soften up your beard, and what that ends up doing is that it will allow the hair to relax some so you can shape it. But I'm not talking about running out of your mother's basement and grabbing her Infusium 23 and then running back down, putting in your beard. You got to remember that parabens are bad and sulfates are bad. It will destroy this. With that said, what you want to do is you want to get it just a little wet. Now keep in mind I did this earlier, so that's why it doesn't look like it did this morning when I crawled out of bed. But either way, you want to grab yourself, put a little bit of water in here, and then grab yourself some of this. Either if you could use the Beard Struggle. I prefer the Beard Struggle because I like the scent, and I find that it really does nourish the skin. It doesn't leave it feeling heavy and oily. But if you have your own preferred brand, by all means it'll work too. When you put a little bit of water with this balm, it kind of turns into almost a paste. And I mean, I'm not talking like your Gorilla Glue paste. I'm just talking slight paste, so that way it will provide a little bit of hold to it. So that way, as it softens the beard, it will also keep it in place, so that way it will stay like that, just like when you're sleeping for 8 hours at night and you wake up and you get your bed beard. So that seems to work pretty well for me. And then I just basically brush it for a few minutes and let it dry, and then it usually looks pretty nice. Now the other part of that is you got to use like a brush or a comb. Don't buy those cheap ass ones, the ones that you buy from the dollar store and you get 10 of them for $1. There's a reason why they're cheap. And what you don't see is if you look very closely at those things, and I'll grab one here and I'll show you. See, this is one that I bought. I mean, it's not cheap, but if you look really closely, you see those little teeth on there? Those are not good for your beard. And any type of snag, because these are literally made out of a mold, and they just snap them out of the mold and they throw them in a bag and they sell them to you for $10. What ends up happening is that will snag on your beard, and it'll tear the hairs out, and trust me, and then it's brutal. What you want to do is you want to get a good brush, something that's wood or something that costs you more than 3 cents, and it will allow you to do that. Now see, I got this one from the Beard Struggle. It comes as part of the Ultimate Kit, and it works really well for me, and it keeps it from snagging and stuff like that. Now you don't want to go down, you want to go lay it flat like that and just run it through your beard just like this. And as you got that paste of balm in there, just run it down and get it just nice and stuff. You can even go underneath too. I mean, unless you got the really thick beard like a couple of buddies of mine do, that's probably not a good option. You're just going to end up being in excruciating pain afterwards and probably have ingrown hair later on. Another thing I like to use, and it's something that the Beard Struggle doesn't sell, but you can find at a store. They're not cheap, but they're worth it. It's called a wet and dry brush. Now keep in mind, this used to be the wife's. I stole it from her. Just like most of the things I have that are in really good condition or really good products, I steal from the wife. It's called a wet and dry brush. Wet and dry brush is great because just like with your hair, they tell you not to brush your hair when it's wet because it'll snag. Well, this is specifically designed. The bristles are really, really soft and they're really well in there, and it will just hug it and just allow you to work it through. Now, don't put it back on the counter afterwards unless your wife uses it. What will end up happening is this will get in her hair, and her hair will get all oily because guess what you just put in your beard? Oils. So yeah, that's really a bad day for you. So don't do that. All right, but it does really, really work really well. Like I said, a little bit of water, a little bit of the beard balm, brush it in nicely for about a minute or two until it starts to dry. And when it dries, it will relax like that, and it'll stay nice and straight. All right. Now, last but not least, what I wanted to talk to you about is there seems to be like a camaraderie between, men with beards. They have a tendency to, let me turn on some light here so you guys can see me. Oh, sorry about that. There seems to be a camaraderie. A beard tends to be a conversation starter, I've noticed. And, I'm not complaining or anything like that, but you get a lot of your tips and tricks from a lot of your buddies, things that they've learned because maybe they had their beard longer than yours, or maybe they know some tricks that you never even thought about because you got, kids running around the house, wife screaming at you, stuff like that because, you got bills coming out. You just ain't got all this time to think about it. Maybe they found out something from their buddy and they just pass it along. Most of those tricks and trades of the trade and stuff when it comes to beards are from men who've already had beards and they've had them for a while. Well, one of the things about a beard is that people notice it, especially when it's as long as mine or, even slightly as long, but it tends to get looks and, I'm sure that the first time you and your boss sat down and had a really good, just general conversation that wasn't about, how well or how horrible you're doing at work was probably because of your beard. And you probably built up a good rapport with him and stuff like that because, maybe he doesn't grow one because he can't because he's part of the whole corporate world and he's got to have this, this whole facade about, being professional and clean cut is the more professional way to go. So, he can't grow one, but so he's going to live vicariously through you. Unless he's got, a silver spoon shoved up somewhere in the fourth point of his contact. I don't know, maybe he's into that kind of thing, but, I personally I'm not. Hey, whatever does it for him, right? Either way, even like last week, for example, I was sitting there in a coffee shop, it's a little place that I have where I work called the Tiny Coffee Shop, or Tiny Coffee House, correction, sorry, I didn't want to get that wrong. And there's another guy, and he had a beard, kind of like mine. It was about like here, but it was nice and straight and even, and just, it looked really, really good. And I was just like, hey, you know what, that's a nice beard. And he was like, hey, likewise. And 45 minutes go by, and literally, neither of us had taken a drink of her coffee at that point, and we just like to regale tales. And one of the first things asked was like, hey, what do you use on it? What kind of tricks of the trade have you learned? Maybe something you can share with me, so that way, I might learn something. And then I turn around and I tell you guys usually. But yeah, so like 45 minutes went by, neither of us take a drink of our coffee, and we learned a lot. But it really is a conversation piece. So if you're worried about how you're going to start a conversation with some of your coworkers at work, grow one of these. Seriously, it'll do it. It'll take care of itself. It'll literally just start the conversation for you. Now keep in mind, it's got to be like longer than a little bit, but just grow one. And grow it out a little bit. Make sure it's nice and full. Give it about a month or two. Put some good products in it. Keep it nice and watch the conversations, unfold. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this article, and look forward to talking to you guys next week. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or maybe you wanted to share your experiences, I would love to hear about it. As a matter of fact, I love talking to everybody. Every single time I get a comment on one of these blogs or I see something on the Beard Struggle when they post it on their Facebook page, I like to talk about it. I like to hear what you guys have to think because it helps me help you guys and talk to you guys. So yeah, please share. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you for your time. Have a good day. Beard on, brothers.